Hello, everyone, and welcome to the open day for the MRes in Creative Computing at the Creative Computing Institute. My name is Georgina Capdevila, and I work as Creative Learning Producer at the Creative Computing Institute, which from now on I'm going to refer as to CCI. So today we are here to talk everything all about the MRes in Creative Computing provision, and in order to do that, we have the pleasure to have with us the course leader of the MRes, Iulia Ionescu. We will also have the reader at CCI, Professor Rebecca Fiebrink. We'll also have a brief presentation from the research leader at CCI, Mick Grierson, Professor Mick Grierson. And we'll also have the chance to hear from current students at the course, Jessii and Jia. To give you an overview of how the session is structured first, we're going to start by talking a little bit about the Institute first, all its spaces, the facilities, the resources that are available to students. Then we're going to share a little bit of an overview about the public program of workshops and events that are also available to current students at CCI. Then we will hear all the details about the MRes program in the hands of Julia, Rebecca, and Mick. And lastly, but not least, we'll have the chance to hear from the current students, Jia and Jessii, about their experience at the course, where we'll be also covering all the questions that we have received through the sign-up form from all of you who are here today. So we'll keep an eye on the chat as well. If there are anything that comes up during the session that you would like to clarify or ask us, please feel free to use the comment section on the YouTube, and we'll also keep an eye there. As there's quite a lot to cover, know that if there's anything that we don't have the time to talk about or discuss here today, we can keep the conversation going over email. So feel free to message us and email us at cci@arts.ac.uk, and we'll keep the conversation going over there. Also, just an important note about accessibility. If you have difficulties following along the session today, please know that the session is being recorded and it will be uploaded and sent to everyone who signed up with English closed captions. So know that if there's anything that you miss, any single little detail about the information that we're going to be sharing, you'll have the chance to catch up at your own pace after the open day today. So let's get this started. And we'll begin by watching a video that my colleague Chloe Dunn put together and recorded, which will tell you all about the Institute. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you in a second.
Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to show you around the campus and share some of the facilities and resources available to CCI students. The Creative Computing Institute is located at UAL's Peckham Road campus in Camberwell, South East London. From 2022, we'll have 2 new sites open in the Camberwell-Peckham area. The Greencoat building, opening in January, will be used for teaching, technical and office spaces. Eagle Wharf will open in September and will provide a new halls of residence building for UAL students, alongside a community outreach, events and exhibition space. Camberwell is a lively and unique area of South East London with good transport links to all parts of the city, including Brixton and Dalston. And we have 3 halls of residence that are all within walking distance of the CCI. The local area is home to a thriving art scene, which hosts a variety of art galleries and artist studios that students, graduates and staff work and exhibit in. On site we have 2 galleries, Camberwell Space and the Students' Union Gallery, with the South London Gallery right next door. Arts organisation Bold Tendencies runs an annual programme of live events and commissions, as well as hosting Frank's Bar on the Roof, with some of the best London views in the city. So here I've just named a few, but there are so many more galleries, cultural hubs and recreational spaces for you to explore that are right on our doorstep. To find out more about the local area, visit the Living in London page on the UAL website. On campus, we have many facilities and spaces for you to use. Our canteen has lots of food and drink options for everyone, with bike storage situated just outside. We have an art shop that offers affordable art supplies and whose staff can help advise you on the best materials for your projects. Also on site, we have an amazing library supported by a dedicated CCI librarian who oversees the subject area of creative computing. She ensures the library stays up to date with the books, periodicals, databases and other resources you need to complete your studies. The Learning Zone is part of the library and is situated on site in the Gardens Halls of Residence building. It's open 24 hours a day, meaning that you can study at a time that best suits you. and they have a range of equipment for you to use and laptops available to learn. To find out more about the spaces and facilities available to you, please visit wiki.cci.arts.ac.uk. Now let's take a look around. The CCI is located across the 4th and 5th floors in Block B at Peckham Road and is very accessible to students with various needs. Our lecture theatre is in the basement of Block B. This space is used for lectures as well as events. The 4th floor is used mostly for postgraduate teaching. Here we have a new seminar room and a room which will house our laser cutter and some 3D printers too. The 5th floor is the heart of CCI. Our kitchen is a communal space as well as a learning space. At lunchtime, it becomes a social hub for CCI folks to share lunch together, and during classes it's a quiet working space. We have pods which can be used when they are not booked as quiet spaces to work and a space to have your tutorials. Alongside are 3 classrooms, 2 seminar rooms and 1 high-end computer suite fitted with some of the latest technology, including 24 high-spec computers with NVIDIA RTX 2080 graphics cards and 4K monitors for working on projects ranging from machine learning to 3D rendering and video editing. Additionally, many of these computers can be accessed remotely from home after hours to enable access to specialist software or the high performance for rendering or machine learning work. We also operate a laptop locker system where students can borrow a laptop to use within the CCI spaces. The physical computing lab is a space for students to do all of their electronics. Here we have everything students will need for soldering and testing things out. We have hundreds of different components which are available for you to use. There is also a sewing machine, embroidery machine, computerised knitting machine and 3D printers. This is just a glimpse of some of the amazing facilities and resources you'll have access to while studying at CCI.
Hello again. I hope that was insightful and useful. I have to apologize for the lag. We're having some connection issues, but we're working on it. Now, a lot of the students interested in applying to study with us at CCI are also interested about the sort of opportunities, workshops, events, and learning programs that they would have the chance to take part in as CCI students. So the video that we put together in the following section will give you sort of overview of the public program of exactly that, learning opportunities that everyone at CCI will have access to and will have the opportunity to participate in. And this includes a series of intensive courses on different topics, as you will see. And the amazing thing about this public program is that it is underpinned by the research themes that our colleagues will talk a little bit more in detail about today. And it's also underpinned by a social mission that defines the core values of the Creative Computing Institute, which I'm also gonna briefly talk about in a few seconds. So I'll leave you with this video for now, and then we'll be back for more. Thank you so much. Hello everyone, my name is Georgina Capdevila, and I am the Creative Learning Producer at CCI. And my role focuses on planning and delivering CCI's public program, which I will briefly talk about in the next few minutes. Our public program is a platform that offers accessible learning experiences, workshops, and events to literally anyone interested in getting a taste about creative computing or deepen their knowledge in the field. This program of activities is underpinned by CCI's 3 key research themes, which are creativity, machine learning and AI, human-computer interaction and platforms, big data, and digital citizenship. The public program also responds to CCI's social mission aimed at integrating computational thinking with approaches to fairness and equality for the UAL community and beyond. Therefore, all our programs have a strong focus on diversity in technology, digital inclusion, and digital entrepreneurship. We are committed to connecting students, practitioners, and researchers with an international community of artists and technologists, and where everyone can explore creative technology through fun and friendly and most of all accessible spaces. To give you a sense of what you'll have the chance to take part in while you're studying at CCI, I will just share quickly some of the programs that we've run in the past. At Technology and Powers Intensive Workshop and Public Symposium last year, we learned about human rights, internet technology regulations, and alternative techno-futures with Dr. Pixcraft and an amazing group of researchers, artists, activists, and advocates. At Tech for All conference, CCI staff members shared how we can creatively reimagine the way we use and design new technologies to create platforms, interactions, experiences, spaces, and products that bring people together in community, respect, beauty, and solidarity. At Querying Voice AI intensive course, a mix of UAL students explored how voice interfaces could be designed to support the embodied well-being of trans and non-binary people. And finally, they prototyped SIP, a voice interface that connects trans and non-binary users to media created by their community. And last but not least, at TechYard, we keep creating a safe space for young kids in the local area of Peckham and Camberwell to learn about creative computing with Jasmine Morris and many other CCI staff and students. These are just a few of the activities that we've been running over the last few years, but there's a lot of free, accessible, and interesting content in our YouTube channel, which I would love to invite you to check out at some point. For this next academic year, just so you have a taste as well of what's going on, we're working on a lot of different activities, which will include a couple of intensive workshops that will be open to all UAL and CCI students. We will also run a fellowship program on the field of experimental human-computer interaction, and there are many, many things that are on the way that we can't wait to share with you. As a CCI student, know that you will have the opportunity to be part of all these spaces and to meet other peers from across UAL and beyond. But this will be a safe space for you to explore your creative career, your creative practice alongside students coming from different courses, different levels, and different programs that will for sure nurture your own views, your perspectives, and your own skill set. So I hope that this got you excited about joining CCI, and we can't wait to share spaces with you in the future. Thanks a lot for your time. Goodbye for now. All right, so now it's time to start talking about the MRes in Creative Computing, which is the reason why you are all here today. And it's a huge pleasure to invite into this stream the course leader of the program, Iulia Ionescu. Hello, Iulia. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I forgot about the unmute button.
Oh, good.
Hi, Georgina. Thank you so much for this brilliant intro. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this brief introduction to the MRes course here at the Institute for Creative Computing. And thanks for being here. My name is Iulia, and as Georgina mentioned, I'm the course leader and senior lecturer on the MRes course. And I'll be sharing my screen in a little bit to go over some of the big questions you may have about the program. And at the end, I will hand over to my colleague, Dr. Rebecca Fiebrink, who's kind of a world-leading expert in creative computing research, and she will talk to you a bit more about the kinds of projects that you might be interested in pursuing during this course. All right, now the MRes. Let me just share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see it. And I'll start with the basics, which I have divided in 8 questions that you might have about the program. And I'm sure there are many more, and we will go over them at the end, but this should kind of give you enough context and more information about the program. And we will cover things such as what is an MRes, who should apply, why consider one, what are some pros and cons of pursuing a master's in research as opposed to other kind of postgraduate programs. And I'll start with the first important question, which is what is an MRes? An MRes is a 1-year program that gives you a Master's of Research degree. And I like to think of the MRes as a minimum viable product for a PhD. And I didn't come up with this myself, but I wish I did. So it's an MVP for a PhD, which is a good tagline because it rhymes. So it's almost like a trial run for a PhD or commercial research, but with some added benefits. And the second important question is, why do a research master's? And aside from being very cool, one of the things that most often kind of comes across if you were to ask people that have done a PhD or that are currently doing a PhD, and this is something that also came across in my own journey of undertaking one. And perhaps a lot of kind of the pop cultural discourse surrounding the PhD existential crisis, right? Please help me, stems from these two things. The first one is not really knowing what research is like before embarking on a PhD. And secondly, never having learned what the process of going through a research project looks like. And this is what the MRes kind of sets to solve. And looking back now, I wish I had done one myself, so that instead of really being lost for about 2-3 years of my PhD and finishing it in 5.5/6 years, I could have just spent that 1 year learning about what it's like being immersed in a research culture, and also learn about the basics of actually undergoing research in a structured way rather than in a sporadic kind of lost existential crisis way that most PhD students have to deal with once they embark on this journey without this kind of training. So learning about the process of doing a research project and being immersed in a research culture prior to doing a PhD actually saves you a lot of time and energy in the years to come, whether that is, academic research or commercial research. Right. The third one is who should apply. So who is it for? And I would say it's for anyone whose kind of thirst for knowledge is unquenched after an undergraduate or postgraduate degree. So even if you're, I don't know, in a professional, but would like to learn more about the research process and about publishing and about contributing to knowledge in a field of interest. So I think if you're constantly, feeling like you've only just scraped the surface of what there is to know in your area of interest, well, you're most probably 100% right. And this would be the place to explore in depth kind of your areas of interest, especially if those areas are related to one of the themes that Georgina has been, telling you about, which are creativity, machine learning, and AI, human-computer interaction, and platforms, big data, and digital citizenship. Next, I want to go over some of the pros and cons of pursuing an MRes as opposed to a taught master, such as an MA or an MSc. And I'll start with some of the advantages, such as, the first one, which I briefly mentioned, is kind of helping you develop the right research skills to undertake a research project. You'd also be working in a very similar or identical environment as other PhD students. So it would almost be like being a PhD student, except it's a 1 year instead of a hypothetical kind of 3 years, which usually end up being 6. So it's a good kind of trial for what a PhD is like. Next, it kind of gives you a huge advantage if you would like to pursue a research career. It makes you actually a much, much stronger PhD candidate. And not only here at UAL, but in any other PhD program around the world, especially within creative or technology fields. It would also help you in whatever research employment you engage in kind of for the rest of your life. So if you'd like to work in research and development, an MRes kind of is a testimony to your ability to do research. And getting an MRes doesn't only qualify you to do research in a specific disciplinary area like you would expect from an MA or an MSc, but rather kind of qualifies you to produce research, to work independently, to ask the right questions, and follow a kind of a rigorous path of answering those questions and think creatively outside of the sphere of a certain discipline. So of course, kind of doing an MRes at the CCI also qualifies you as being able to produce research in any of the themes more broadly tackled here, such as AI, machine learning, or HCI. And in terms of cons, I think masters of research programs are usually a bit more self-isolating and less structured than a taught master, such as MA or an MSc. Taught masters place a bit more emphasis on advancing the skills of a profession through lectures, seminars, and activities, while research masters such as MRes are more independent in nature. And you usually don't have as many kind of timetable units as they're meant to kind of emulate kind of what a PhD experience is like. But that's not really the case here. And because the MRes in CCI, you kind of get the best of both worlds. The MRes has a self-directed independent research project running alongside a series of taught units. So it is very structured and there is plenty of taught content, which leads us to the next question on what will I learn? And the MRes in creative computing is structured into 6 units. 3 on methods, which is what the M stands for on the left-hand side, and 3 more applied or kind of practical, so to speak. They're more hands-on on programming and experimental work. And that includes also 1 self-directed research project that will kind of culminate in a draft paper and a PhD proposal. So the 3 method units go over the key aspects of the research project, over methodologies and methods, over what other people are doing in your field of interest, and over the framework for research ethics in the field of creative computing. And to offer a more detailed example, in methods 1, you will be learning about the basics of undertaking a research project, such as how to ask the right research questions, to identify opportunities and gaps in knowledge, and have a good overview of epistemologies, methodologies, methods, all that. So those kind of like research culture buzzwords that are usually thrown in a grab bag style will begin to make sense, and we'll sort them out and see that there is a very clear structure to how they relate to each other and to your research interests. In methods 2, you will learn about critically engaging with other works in your field, to look up what's already been done and to question what else needs further research. And in methods 3, you will be learning about research ethics from experts in this field. Then in creative coding, you'll be learning about the basics of programming in an applied project work. Same for the research design and experimental data in creative computing, where you'll be kind of introduced to more advanced notions such as learning Python and practically exploring machine learning and AI in the context of your research interest. It's a very applied unit, so you may be also working with physical computing projects and hardware, so it's very practice-based. And finally, in parallel, you will be working on an independent research project where you kind of get to apply everything that you are being taught, which leads us to the next question on outputs. So what are some of the outputs? So the MRes kind of allows you to also publish papers as part of your self-directed research project. And you are actually expected that by the end of your research project to have not only the knowledge to undertake an applied research project, but to have both a draft academic paper and a solid PhD proposal. So in other words, by the end of it, you will have also perhaps a published paper and a solid chance of continuing your career in research or PhD here at CCI or in another institute around the world. And finally, why an MRes at UAL CCI? And I think there are many reasons why you should do a master's at the Creative Computing Institute. But the first that come to my mind are kind of the very interdisciplinary nature of this degree and the right balance of taught and self-directed material. You will also be in contact not only with kind of top creatives and researchers in this field of computing, but also top-end artists, designers, engineers, from whom you get to learn a great deal. So the community is one important aspect. It's a diverse team, it's fun, intellectually engaging environment. And if you are any of that, and you also have a thirst for research and for contributing to the knowledge in this field, then this might be the place to be. So yeah, that's what basically the course is about. And if there are any essential questions which I haven't covered, we will come back to those at the end. But in the meantime, I want to pass on to Dr. Rebecca Fiebrink to tell you a bit more about the kind of research happening here at the CCI and the kinds of projects we are here to support you develop.
Thank you, Iulia. Thanks everybody for coming today. It's really a pleasure to talk to you. I'm Professor Rebecca Fiebrink. I'm a computer scientist and a musician by training, and I've been doing research, published research in creative computing for over 15 years now. So I'm really delighted that CCI exists, delighted to, I think, as Iulia said, offer opportunities through this MRes program that I wish I had when I was coming out of an undergraduate degree and trying to figure out how to go about doing interdisciplinary research at the intersection of computing and creative technology, and figuring out, do I want to do research? Figuring out what kinds of research questions, what kinds of research methods make sense for me. So I'm really excited that we have this program. And in the next section of this open day, my colleague and I, Mick Grierson, and I are going to give you some more information about the research environment at CCI. And I'm going to share my screen briefly here in just a moment. Oops. There we
Hello and welcome to this talk on research at the UAL Creative Computing.
Sorry, not quite ready for Mick's video. Just give a high-level overview, and then Mick is going to come in with a video to talk about some student work. So you've heard mention already of some of these research themes. One more time, the research themes underlying so much of the work that we do here are number one, creativity, machine learning, and AI. Number two, human-computer interaction and platforms, and number three, big data and digital citizenship. Now, of course, these themes, if you start digging into any of these, they are huge, right? Human-computer interaction alone, which is one of my core research communities, it has, many different conferences, many different journals, and intersects with creativity in lots of really different ways. So, this is a way to orient ourselves about what is in scope for CCI, but at the same time, actually, this scope is quite broad. And my students have, even though my background is in music and computer science, as I've mentioned, I do a lot of work with machine learning. I have students, research students I've worked with who are quite close to that. I have research students who are further away from that, who might share with me an interest in human-computer interaction, but might be bringing a lot of their own interests in creative practice, a lot of their own technical skills. So I'll come back to this in a bit, but I do want to show you a few more things before Mick's video. Georgina, I believe, also mentioned somewhere here the social mission of the Institute. So again, this is really key, not only when we're thinking about how we teach and what kinds of outreach we do, but also what kinds of research we do. So a lot of our research here focuses around matters of digital inclusion, understanding inclusion and exclusion in the current world, and trying to build technology or do other sorts of research that improves inclusivity. Along with this, diversity in technology, understanding problems in diversity and justice when it comes to how technology is taught and employed and deployed, and improving that as we can. And the third social mission theme being digital entrepreneurship, right? So this, again, this is woven through so much of our research as well as our other activities here. If you've seen the we have a web page on the MPhil PhD in creative computing, which is quite similar in sort of the applicant pool that we draw from as the MRes. And if you're here today in the MRes Open Day, you might be thinking about whether you want to do an MRes or an MPhil PhD, or you might have come to the MRes through this page, thinking about maybe the MRes is a better fit for me. Anyway, this is a good resource. If you haven't seen this page, I do recommend you look at this, because again, here we're giving you some more information about the scope of students that we are looking for, that we're best able to support and most excited to work with. And in many ways, it is broad, right? We don't just take people doing visual art, for instance. We're interested in people who might come from a background in film or music or sculpture, fine art, games, immersive technologies, interaction design, accessibility, technology for people with disabilities, for instance, data journalism, right? These are all very much within scope, and they, of course, intersect with these themes in some really exciting ways, and they intersect with our social mission in some really exciting ways, right? And we've had students from quite a variety of these backgrounds. That's part of, for me, what makes CCI such an exciting place to work. All right, I think at this point, I will introduce my colleague, Professor Mick Grierson. He's the research leader at the Creative Computing Institute. We have a video from him talking about some of the research and especially some of the student research that has happened here in the last couple of years.
Hello and welcome to this talk on research at the UAL Creative Computing Institute. My name is Professor Mick Grierson, and I'm here to tell you about the sorts of work our PhD students do, the sorts of work that we do, and the kinds of supervisors you might get to work with if you apply PhD with us. So what's the CCI? Well, the CCI is a new institute focused on computer science, the creative industries, and the arts. And what we want to do is we want to ensure future technologies are shaped by creative thought as much as possible. And that includes in art practice. We have three main themes to do that: creativity, machine learning, and AI. human-computer interaction and platforms, and big data and digital citizenship. So what does that actually mean? Well, last year I worked with Rob Del Naya to make an exhibition as part of the AI More Than Human exhibit that went across the museums and galleries and is still touring for 5 years. And this was a celebration of Massive Attack's album Mezzanine, which we built an AI for, which used entirely cutting-edge technology. And this AI is constantly remixing that album to people who are visiting the exhibition. In addition, we recently worked with Arca to produce an AI system that allowed her to create a soundtrack for the lobby of the Museum of Modern Art. And this is part of a large installation with sculptural technology components. And it's really, really something else. It's quite an interesting piece. This is all part of a project which CCI are undertaking in collaboration with Google, Goldsmiths, Durham, Sussex, funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council. It's a £1 million project to change the way that people make sound, music, and the visual arts. Mimic is a platform which we also use in our teaching and that lots of our researchers use because it allows you to program and create computer graphics, interactive systems right there in the platform. And you can hack away and make changes as you're developing your research. You can also learn to program, and we have lots of different ways for helping you do that. Some of these tools that are in the Mimic platform are based on earlier research we've done, including the Rapid Mix Toolkit, which is a toolkit for making it easier for people to learn how to use machine learning. We've got a lot of PhD students here at the moment who are interested in machine learning and also physical computing. One of them is Jen Sykes, who is actually based in Glasgow and is a teacher at Glasgow School of Art, a lecturer in physical computing there. Another of our PhD students at CCI is Angus Main, who is a lecturer at the Royal College of Art, who is working with Google on a National Productivity Investment Fund project to explore how AI can influence design. Further to that, we have another PhD student called Walteri, who is focusing on how to understand the kinds of narratives people might be interested in reading. And that's another NPIF-funded scholarship where he's working specifically with Unbound, who are a company that uses crowdfunding to finance entirely new and innovative forms of narrative fiction. Another of our students is Memo Acton, who is well known in the field of creative AI. Memo is known for producing a number of works, including these sorts of works which use creative AI to change how you can interact with artificial intelligence systems. And what you can see here is Memo is in real time controlling an AI system by using these different bits of rubbish that he's found around his flat. And so as the video goes on, you can see that he changes his AI model and he's able to sculpt with fire by moving around objects. And there's another interesting part later on where he creates clouds and also flowers. And you can see here that his hand is being used to generate this floral shape and texture. Other students that we have include Terence Broad, who uses AI to create a series of still image and video works. His most recent series of works include Teratome, which is inspired by the most recent progress in artificial intelligence, particularly face generation. And it takes face generating models, which have cost millions of pounds to create, and uses them and actually bends them and distorts them to create unrealistic faces. Well, I would say they're realistic faces, but not of humans that you may have seen. Another of our students is Hadil Ayub. Hadil has created a glove which turns sign language into speech. And this is a physical computing project with an onboard computer and machine learning to track hand gestures. Another of our students has produced interactive, immersive, real-time, machine learning-driven installations. So these are multi-screen installation works which are designed to be immersive. So large audiences can enjoy multi-screen works with up to 6 screens at once with systems that are controlled by machine learning in real time. So who can supervise you? We have a number of supervisors, including myself, and I think my background is reasonably well known in creative AI. Also, in AI, machine learning, and human-computer interaction, we have Rebecca Fiebrink, and Rebecca is excellent and has lots of supervision expertise, particularly in areas of HCI and machine learning. She also authored the Wekinator, which is one of the most popular pieces of software for artists using machine learning. In addition, we have Dr. Vali Laliotti, who runs the innovation consultancy and is an RCA researcher and academic. She's also our program director. Vali's very interested in XR, AR, and VR, with a strong track record working, including with people such as RCA and Imperial on AR applications for the arts. In addition, we have a new member of staff, Anna Troisi, who's very focused on arts practice, including a project which incorporates artworks and the sounds of Kenyan communities to create an oral archive of their experiences in their day-to-day lives. So they're the kinds of people you can work with if you come and study at CCI. The sorts of skills that we're looking for is a mixture of design and creativity experience, but also, and very importantly, a willingness to engage. A willingness to engage with programming, a willingness to engage with technology, and a willingness to be part of a community which isn't frightened of technology, but wants to rule it and command it and take ownership of it for the creative arts and industries. And that's all I've got to say. If you're interested in studying with us, please field any questions and they'll be forwarded to us, or send me an email and you can find my contact information on the UAL website. I look forward to hearing from you.
All right, thanks to Mick for that. I'm going to share my screen again and just fill in a little bit beyond some of the work that Mick was talking about. Another really excellent web page for you to be familiar with as you're trying to understand the research environment here and whether it's something you'd want to be a part of is our people page for the Creative Computing Institute. So under academic staff, we have a pretty complete list of staff, and many people here have many roles. Many folks, including myself and Mick, we teach and we do research. So it's a little bit, it's not like we can say, oh, well, these are the researchers and this is everybody else. Likewise, we can't really say, well, here are the creative arts practitioners and here's everybody else. Lots of folks, including myself, also have creative practice that they engage in. So we're a messy interdisciplinary group of people, and I like it that way. But it's worth looking at this webpage. This is the current list of people. You can go to any member of staff and click on their name and read their biography and read about what kind of work they're doing. Often people have their Twitter or their webpage, or you're able to look at their publications, for instance. Obviously, not everybody on this webpage is somebody you would be, learning from directly in a class taught on the MRes, but we're all part of the CCI. Many of us, give talks, we do guest lectures, we're available for, one-on-one meetings with any CCI student. Many of us, supervise research projects. Many of us have additionally research grants that we're doing collaboratively with others. So do look through this page. We have folks. I'm not going to go through everybody one by one, but we've got a fair number of people who are focused on critical approaches to technology, understanding the role of technology in society, questioning that role, proposing new ways for that role to change. That includes Peaks, that includes some of my work, that includes certainly Murad, Hunter, Yasmin, other folks on this page. We've got people who are, very technical engineers, computer scientists. That's my background. That's to some extent Vali's background. We've got Stella here who does engineering and design work with virtual reality and serious games. We've got people doing games. Phoenix Perry, for instance, is a huge figure in the games space. She's up here. Doing really interesting published research, working on funded research projects, as well as actually making games, making interactive installations.
And a number of us, it's worth mentioning, have as a research focus learning and teaching. So Phoenix, for instance, has done many years of teaching outreach, especially to women and people from minority communities, teaching people how to make games, and has done that very successfully. We've got, I think it's worth mentioning, a bunch of Future Learn offerings. This is potentially interesting to you if you want to learn some new skills, which are in the remit of CCI. And again, you don't have to be a CCI student to take part in this. So this is immediately out there. You can take a look at our offerings here. But again, worth mentioning that many of us come to creating this material both as instructors, people who love to teach people, but also as researchers interested in questions of how do people learn about creative technology? How should people learn? How might we build better tools to help people learn differently or to engage more diverse audiences in this learning? So that's a research strand as well. I'll finish up here just by mentioning a few more very current project developments at the CCI. And I'll encourage you to look at these more on your own time if they're of interest. So one really exciting development is that a couple months ago, we've been, as UAL, awarded a £3 million grant from the Arts and Humanities Research Council to do a project called Transforming Collections, Reimagining Art, Nation, and Heritage. Now, this project is led by a principal investigator in the Decolonizing Arts Institute. And there's a bunch of collaborators on this project, including me and Mick, Peaks Craft, Charlotte Webb, a few others. We're going to be working with them to build new kinds of machine learning and data tools for archivists, for curators, for artists. And the goals of this project are, instead of using machine learning to generate new art, as you saw in many of the videos from Mick, the goals are really outlined here, right? We're going to be engaging with contentious histories imbued in objects, informed by debates around contested heritage, combining critical art historical and museological research with participatory machine learning design. We're going to be surfacing patterns of bias, uncovering hidden connections, generating new narratives around art, nation, and heritage. So this is a 3-year project. If you started the MRes in the next year or two, you would absolutely see a lot of stuff happening in this space. Another very recent development is that we've released a new tool. This is work by myself, led by Phoenix Perry, in collaboration with a number of collaborators at Goldsmiths, Coventry, and others. This is a tool called InteractML. We developed tools for Unity and Unreal game engines to make game designers and VR artists better able to use machine learning in their own work, even if they're not programmers, even if they've never used machine learning before. One other project I'll mention is a big focus of Vali Laliati, who Mick mentioned. She's our program director here. This is the Hearts Professional Project, a big collaborative project, again, involving UAL, Imperial, Royal College of Music, investigating the impact of the pandemic on professionals in the arts and culture sectors. So as part of this, for instance, they've done some really interesting work exploring how VR can support music performance and practice. So I'll leave it there. There's lots more online. Hopefully this gives you a really nice overview of what folks are doing. And there's so much more that I haven't had the time to mention.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you, Iulia, and thank you, Mick, as well, for these super insightful presentations. I hope that gave everyone an amazing overview of what this program can offer to you and to your path. So now we are going straight into the Q&A section. So it's a pleasure to invite Jia and Jessii into the stream as well. Hello, Jessii. Hello, Jia.
Hi.
Lovely. So in the next 15 minutes, we're going to be answering some of the questions that we received from the sign-up form, and hopefully just giving some clarity on a few topics that we haven't been able to cover so far. So I'm going to keep showing the questions on the screen so you can all read it with us. So the first question that we have is, what's the difference between the MRes Creative Computing and the rest of postgraduate programs at CCI? Who would like to take this one?
I can cover that. I think I briefly mentioned it in the presentation as well, but there's some difference between research masters and taught masters, such as MA or MSc. And I think they're kind of each tailored to the goal you might have in life. So if you want to kind of deepen your knowledge in a field, then MSc or MA might be more of interest. But if you're thinking of pursuing a career in research, that's what really an MRes is for. So it's really all about the goal you have for your career development, and what you want to kind of carry on doing in life. So it's up to you what suits best your academic goals.
Thank you, Julia. Also, it's worth mentioning that we've already run open days about the rest of the postgraduate programs. We're actually running the MSc in Creative Computing one tomorrow. So you have plenty of information online to really, explore what's the best program for your career goals and your academic goals. So we invite you to check our YouTube channel just to sort of dive into all this information and decide. But we're here. If you have any other questions, of course, you can reach out to us anytime and we'll get back to you. So the second question that we have is, what kind of research opportunities are there with labs or on the faculty projects? Who would like to go with this one?
So I'll talk about this. This is the answer to this is complicated. The answer is it depends. We have with such a broad and diverse set of staff doing research. There are always new projects launching. There are always new people joining. I think in general, I can speak for my colleagues in saying that we are always happy to sit down with new students who have an intersection with our research interests and talk you through what kinds of opportunities there are with us. All of us have an online sign up for office hours, for instance, and any CCI student can book a slot at any point, whether to come in and talk to us in person at CCI or to do a video call. And so that's one of the things that I really enjoy is having students come in, sitting down with them, saying, okay, what are you interested in? What are your questions? And the outcomes of that can look like many different things, right? It can look like saying, oh, okay, let's work together formally and have a mentorship relationship or a supervisor relationship where we're formulating some research questions together on topics of the student's interest that might lead, or inform that final master's project, right? That's one form this can take. Another form it can take is where we have existing research projects, which might be, funded by UK or EU research councils, or might be collaborations within or beyond CCI. It might look like something of the form, hey, I've got this project going on right now. Boy, it would be really helpful if we could get someone to help us out with this bit, and maybe it's help us run a workshop or help do some data analysis. And as someone doing that in an MRes program, that's another route to getting on a publication, to getting your hands dirty in doing real research in a collaborative context. This can take other forms as well. Often I just have conversations with people who say, I don't know yet what kind of research I want to do. And we sit down, we make a list of, hey, what are the journals out there that you might be looking at? What are the conferences you might want to look at? Let's make a reading list of things that are really specific to your interests. And maybe that takes off into something that's a longer term collaboration, or maybe not. I also mentioned we do sometimes have very formal research assistant roles that come up. I've been interviewing for research assistants on transforming collections, this decolonizing arts project I mentioned. We've been doing those interviews all week. Those kinds of projects are there. They're not, exclusive to MRes students or to internal CCI staff, but those are other ways that we bring people into this community, and those become part of the research atmosphere that you're part of. And in some cases, those are opportunities that you're very well placed to apply to as an MRes student. Those tend to be on the timescale of 1 to 3 years. So there's a lot of variety there.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you so much. We've got a question coming through the chat, which feels very relevant, from Kruti. They say, this is a super basic question, but do you need to have a very specific research topic in mind while applying, or is it acceptable to just be interested in a more general field? Who would like to go for this one? Julia?
I can cover. Yeah, sure. I can cover that. It's a very good question. You wouldn't normally be expected to have, I mean, it's good if you have a very specific research topic in mind, definitely. You probably won't end up with that anyway, because that's part of the research journey. You might change, what you start with or what you think you're interested in once you're like, during the research. So no, it's very acceptable to just be interested in, in a general field and to just have have an itch to find out more about something that you're passionate about. It's not how you would expect how you expect with a PhD application, where you do need to have a very specific proposal, but that's what we're working towards on the MRes. So yeah, just having a general interest helps that dive deeper into figuring out how to put together a PhD research proposal.
Thank you, Julia. Now I thought, since we have 2 current students at the course, it would be interesting to hear from them about their experience. For example, like Jessii, did you have a specific topic in mind when you applied to the MRes? Did you have like an idea of what you would like to explore during the program?
Hi. When I was doing the application, I didn't have I didn't identify my research interest at that time. It's quite early for me because I think we need to read more paper and do it in practical and then make the decision.
Thank you, Jessii. What about you, Jia? How was your experience coming into the program?
Before I come to the program, actually, I don't have the specific research topic. I just explore it during my study and read more books and open my mind to think about more fields. So I think you don't need to have a specific research topic.
Thank you, Jia. Thank you, Jessii, for sharing with us. Beautiful. Moving on, we have a few more questions to cover. So we've got this one that says, what specific technical knowledge are you expecting a successful MRes applicant to have priorly?
I can cover a bit of that, but there's a lot more detailed info on that from the ULL website. But I think overall you are expected to have some background in either computer science or data science or anything that has to do with computing. It definitely helps. It also helps to have background in a creative discipline, such as interactive design, interactive media design, web design, game design, or even product design if you've done some computational practices during that course. It definitely helps because there are a couple of units which introduce key aspects to programming, but you probably need a framework to begin with so that it's it helps with your research.
Thank you, Julia. That's great. Then we have another question which asks us, what is the MRes like for a non-UK citizen? So I guess, Jessii and Jia, you're best placed to answer this one from your lived experience, if you want to.
Yeah, I can answer that. I think for non-UK students, when you are starting to do academic research in UK, you need to be careful about using your own previous cultural experience and perspectives. I think the same issue may be approached in different way in different countries and cultures. So don't take a preconceived views of something. You need to understand the local cultural context and social environment, and also like local government policies. So I think know more about the background and related aspects of the research topic is more important.
Thank you, Jia. Is there anything you would like to add, Jessii, to what you just shared?
Yeah, when I was doing my application, I brought some master programs in the US, in the UK, and also in China. I'm from China, so I know it better than in China. Even master programs begin with a specific tutor. students need to make a decision at a very early stage. So it's a little bit difficult for me. I come here to the MRes program. Unlike the saying Mick used before, it's okay to need more time.
Thank you for sharing, Jessii. That's amazing. Beautiful. Moving on, we've got another question which says, can you tell us more about the proposal writing and application? Who would like to cover this one?
I think I can briefly go over the proposal writing that you actually don't really have to do until the very end. So it shouldn't necessarily be something to worry about before applying to the MRes. It's something that we're working towards in the MRes course. But as far as the application goes, I think it's pretty straightforward, and it's quite an easy one because you wouldn't have to put together a portfolio that usually takes the longest. But of course, I haven't applied myself, so perhaps it's best to hear from the students what they think of the application.
Thank you, Iulia. The next question we've got here is there a specific teacher or professor that leads you in your search or your research question? Because we've kind of like covered that, but would someone just want to go through it again?
I mean, there isn't a specific teacher or professor, but definitely you can, as Rebecca mentioned earlier and Mick said as well, you can approach any staff member in the CCI and they will guide you with, tutorials or help in whatever kind of interest you might have. Also, in one of the methods classes where you'll be you'll learn about how to ask the right research questions and how to identify opportunities and gaps in knowledge. Then you'll also have people like myself and other CCI members that can help you, with your research questions and to frame them correctly and then guide you towards the right people that might be able to provide more info in that field. So there isn't a very specific one, but you have access to, great minds in the CCI.
Thank you, Iulia. I think there's another one that you could also cover. It says, what is the thesis development and final outcome of this course?
Yeah, I believe I kind of covered that, but to go in more detail, I think for the research project, which is the big one, and that's really the one that you want to work towards, maybe if you want to apply for a PhD, then it's a 3-part outcome. So you'd have a thesis of at least 5,000 words. Then you have a PhD proposal or a draft academic paper. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a draft. You can publish it. And then you have a project presentation. So those are kind of the outcomes that we expect you to produce. But there are other kind of outcomes as part of the other units. And those, again, include like a literature review, another like reports, an ethical report, and all of that. So you'll be producing a lot of the content that you are expected to produce in the context of research.
Thank you, Iulia. So we're coming to the end of the session, but we have a few questions still that we'll have the time to cover. So it says, what is the chance to advance to a PhD after or during your course? And can it be at the same university?
I can take this one. The MRes is really structured to put you in the best possible position to apply successfully to PhDs at the conclusion. We are very confident in how our MRes is structured and how it's taught. And, obviously there's no guarantee that if you go through the MRes, you would be accepted to CCI, but that's one of our goals, for ourselves, is to both train you up so that you're ready to hit a PhD, running. If you do one at CCI, that you'll be very competitive for our PhD places. But also we hope, we're pretty confident that we're giving people a good experience so that you enjoy being at CCI and you want to stick around. That said, absolutely, we also want to position you well to go wherever is the best fit for you. And, we're very supportive of, helping people identify other places to apply, writing recommendation letters and all that stuff. So there's not an expectation that you would stay. And I will maybe answer very quickly. There's a question on the chat that's related to this about if you were to continue the PhD within CCI, what does funding look like for overseas students? There is funding information on our PhD website. There's not a specific difference in that information for MRes students. There isn't any sort of specifically earmarked funding for overseas PhD students. That's something that we're continually working on. The answer to how much funding is available does tend to change from year to year, but certainly there's more information on our PhD website about funding.
Thank you, Rebecca. Lovely. So moving towards the end, we have 2 more questions that we'll be covering now. The first one is, what teaching and technical resources are available to CCI students? So I think we kind of covered that at the beginning, right? But I think it would be really insightful if Jessii and Jia, you could share the technical resources and the teaching resources that you've been finding very useful for your own program and your own progression within your course. So if you feel like sharing from your lived experience, that would be lovely.
I'd like to mention the Mick platform. It's amazing for me, and because it's like GitHub for coders, but people on Mick focus on creative works, and they're really amazing. I got inspirations there.
Thank you, Jessii. Would you like to add something to that, Jia?
I just arrived UK, so I spent a year, 3 months online study. So I think that I can talk about the online community in CCI is really nice, and we share the homework and discuss the homework together on the Slack, and it's really helpful for me.
Thank you, Jia. That's lovely to hear. Beautiful. So we have one last question that I think it would be really good if everyone could give an answer to, which is, what is CCI community like? What is the thing that you love the most about being part of CCI? Jessii, do you want to start?
Yeah. And the community is very open, supportive, and also flourishing in creativity. It's a perfect place to meet like-minded people. We exchange views from different perspectives, from different backgrounds, and get inspired. And the best thing is that we have access to guidance from very experienced professors and teachers who have started doing what we want to do several years ago.
Thank you, Jessii. Do you like to add something, Jia?
I think CCI really encourages students to speak their mind. It's not about right or wrong, but it's really about inspiring students to think and be creative. So I think that's the thing I like.
Thank you, Jia. Rebecca, Iulia, would you like to add something there as well?
Sure. I'll briefly say I love how many different perspectives and types of expertise and types of questions and practices people bring. I'm constantly learning from my colleagues and students because it's an exciting group of people.
Thank you, Rebecca. What about you, Iulia? Something else to add?
I don't think there's much more to add other than I think I find it an absolutely brilliant community of very inspiring people. Or colleagues, students, you learn from everybody. So yeah, I'm constantly amazed by the work that's being produced by the CCI, and you will be too if you're here. Yeah.
Thank you, Iulia. Wow, we made it to the end of the event. Thank you so much for everyone who stuck around for a few extra minutes. This is everything for this open day session. We are going to post this video on the YouTube. So if you want to go through the content again, we'll send you the link in a few weeks' time. But I hope it was an insightful, useful session, that you got a lot of clarity and answer a lot of questions that you had about the MRes Creative Computing. If there are any more questions that come up in the next few weeks or months, just email us at cci@arts.ac.uk, and we're very happy to point you to the right person to talk to, or to answer any queries that might come up. And I think that's everything. We look forward to hearing from you very soon, hopefully meeting you in real life very soon as well. And that's it for today. Thanks, everyone, and take care. Thank you, Rebecca, Julia, Jessii, Jia, and Mick.
Thanks, Georgina.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.